For our next speaker, please welcome to the stage Mr. Ryan DeGraw, speaking from Culver-Stockon, class of 2014. This is the final undergraduate, one of your very own, who will be speaking to us and discussing the topic of redefining manhood.
All right, brothers, I'm going to start with some bad news. We got a global economy that's going to crap. We got a decade-long war, and despite all that, one day our generation is going to have to explain how we let Honey Boo Boo happen. I mean, seriously, what happened? I don't know. I can't figure it out. We've got education that is in desperate need of reform. We've got urban poverty cycles that are going nuts, and we're putting all of our time, money, and energy into the Kardashians and Jersey Shore. Why? I don't know how to answer all this, but what I do know is that I've got 4 little sisters who are growing up in a society where everyone, not just girls, but especially girls, are being taught that they have to chain themselves to destructive behavior in order to be accepted. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the status quo really is okay. On paper, at least, we've had since 1870, since men of any race could vote. Women could vote since 1920. In the 1970s, the state of Missouri finally rescinded the Mormon extermination order, so I guess everything's okay, right? Dr. King's dream has been realized. We can all go home. Do any of you really feel free at last? I mean, let's break this down a little bit. According to the last census, about half of the population of the country is women, and yet only 18% of Congress is female. Less than 5% of Fortune 500 company CEOs are women. If you compare that to the African American community, who's about 13% of the total population, 8% of Congress, and only 6 Fortune 500 CEOs. The really interesting thing is that within that percentage of Congress that's African American, 36% of them are women. That's kind of interesting. Now, if we can break this down a little bit, I'm going to get my security blanket out, if that's all right. So we've got this most diverse lawmaking body that we've ever had, and it's still 80% white dudes. That's the most diverse we can get in the hundreds of years we've been a country. I mean, we need to change something. And I think the underlying cause for all of this is that not enough men and women are living up to the principles of Delta Upsilon. Like, can you imagine how much different politics would be if they practiced non-secrecy? How cool would that be? We've got friendship, culture, character, justice. We need those. We need more men and women who are living up to those ideas and those ideals. Now, my talk today is going to focus on gender, but it's easily applicable to race, to romantic orientation, to belief systems, etc. And the foundation for this came from a guy named Bernard Franklin. You might know him. He's about yay tall, black guy, really friendly, sometimes speaks with the voice of Thor's hammer. It was at President's Academy, and we walked a TED Talk by Tony Porter called A Call to Men. And he talked about this man box that we have, this societal brainwashing that we as men have been placed under, where you have to be physically imposing, you have to be emotionally unavailable, you have to be all of these things in order to be a man. And that's total crap. But that got me thinking about things that have been kind of weighing on my mind for years, and reminded me of some of the things that I was thinking about when I was making my decision to join this fraternity. The types of discussions that were encouraged and that started because of things like that. And it got me thinking, and I went back to the exec board at school and was like, hey, we got to do something. We got to find some way to do this. And with the help of some really, really exceptional advisors, we were able to put together an event that we called Redefining Manhood. And I don't know about you guys' chapters, but nothing like this had ever been done on our campus before. And what we did was we went out and talked to each of the sororities and had them pick a representative or two to come and basically have an open forum with us. We had members of each sorority come and basically explain how they wished all men would behave with regard to our 4 founding principles. I mean, if you're looking for a way to get men's attention, just tell them, hey, these ladies right here are going to tell you exactly how they want you to be. That's a good place to start. And it went really well. We had our advisor help out as well. She's phenomenal. And so they each talked about how they wished all men would, emphasize more, building friendships with, not just with women, but in general, being more culturally sensitive, all of these things that our founding principles say we believe. We had a room full of girls say, hey, yeah, you should do this. And it was really cool, and it was a really neat experience. And in preparation for this, I had the chance to talk to some of my best friends, my sisters, my dad, who's helping to raise 4 girls from ages 11 to 21, and kind of get their perspective on things. And I'm going to give you a heads up just ahead of time. I might get a little choked up for a bit, but that's because to me I'm not quoting someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's wife, someone's mother. To me, I'm quoting someone that I know, and I know their history, and I know what they've been through. So to me, this is really impactful. And so I'm just going to read you the questions I asked them and then their answers. And then you can apply this to your own friends, families, whatever. When asked about their expectations of men in general, I told them to be honest. What they really expected from men in general. Some guys act like gentlemen, but most are rude and disrespectful. I'm afraid to be in a relationship with someone I know is a good guy because I'm scared that once the relationship starts getting physical, he'll end up being just like everyone else. I hate how guys say things like, she's a nice piece of ass. Literally, she isn't even a whole person. Just one aesthetically pleasing piece of dissected meat. At least you could say she has one to acknowledge that there's at least a person attached. When asked about their general expectation of fraternity men, it was a little different. I thought they'd have higher standards, but for the most part, they've been worse, and that makes the disappointment that much harder. Except for my DU boys, of course. They create an environment where all anyone asks is what she was doing, or wearing, or drinking, not what he was intending, or doing, or giving her. They expect women at parties to hook up with a lot of guys and feel entitled to objectify them and abuse the situation. Like being there gives them the right to be pushy or manipulative to try and get us to have sex with them. No doesn't mean no at a party. It just means you need another drink. And then when asked how they wish all men would behave, I wish more guys would respect other people, be more culturally sensitive, and interested in friendship, not just hunting for sex. I just wish I could feel safe around more guys. And then my dad, of course. As a father, the best way to show your kids you love their mother is to understand who she wants to be and help her to be that person. As a culture, we need to remind men that in any relationship, romantic or otherwise, love is about mutual growth, commitment, sacrifice, and selflessness. And I'm asked about their perspective on the objectification of women. Dancing is the worst. All they want to do is rub up against you like you aren't even there. And if you say something and you're not okay with it, you're labeled a bitch. We aren't just products to be used and tossed aside, but men always talk about girls like they're looking at a menu. And then, of course, my dad, the overachiever. The end result of men objectifying women is the objectification of themselves. If you think about the Old Testament where a rapist could restore his victim's honor by marrying her, it's a completely horrific concept, but at the very least it acknowledged that you had done some wrong to another person. In the early 20th century, women were objectified in that they were owned by their husbands or fathers to be bartered off in marriages or subject to whatever their husband wanted. And as twisted as those ideologies may be, we have to look at what we have now. The use of sex for selfish gratification is so universally rampant and cavalier that there are hardly any recognition of the woman as a person anymore. When that mentality takes hold, a man's concept of a woman's human identity erodes and they literally become objectified. They literally become thought of as objects. And eventually when you lose sight of the humanity of others, you lose sight of your own. Now, this is not some big manifesto on abstinence. I'm going to put that out there real quick so you just write me off completely. I am saying that what we need to do is to focus more on the quality of the relationships we build than the quantity. We need to focus more on who we're talking to, not what we're looking at. If we can apply this to race to romantic orientation to anything else, our level of understanding, our compassion, our empathy for others will just increase exponentially. And so many of the problems that we get hung up on in our society can just melt away because we will be better men. That's kind of the whole point. And we're incredibly privileged to be able to be here. We're college-educated fraternity men. In the scope of all human existence, do you realize how rare and wonderful an opportunity that is? I'm no statistician, but I'm pretty sure that the number of guys who have had the opportunities that we have in the scope of entire human history is nigh unto really small. And for us, it's especially difficult because DU standards are higher. And not only are they higher, but they are open to scrutiny. We invite others to check up on us and make sure that we're living what we say we believe. It's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of expectations, and it's a lot of privilege. And so we have an enormous responsibility to start now, to start locally at our chapters and to change things. At our chapter after this event, we had, it didn't fix everything, myself included, but now we have kind of this running joke where whenever a guy will say something, insensitive or sexist or whatever, he'll kind of stop and be like, oh, sorry, I was in my man box, and we'll move on. And it's improved, it's gotten better. And the fact that I am a white, heterosexual, Christian, middle-class, college-educated male does not excuse me from being involved or interested in other issues, because at the end of the day, it's not about race issues, it's not about romantic orientation issues, it's not about gender issues, it's about human issues. Thank you.